So we're back with Phillip Haney, and we're having an interesting discussion on whether he has a principle that permits us to know when we should go to war and when we shouldn't. We've talked about what is war, what isn't. We've examined various historical wars and the situation that led us into war, and if we were following a consistent principle or not. It's clear we haven't been. And I was wondering, uh, you still agree that the right principle is that if we're attacked or there's an imminent threat of attack, then us, the United States, then we should go to war, by meaning like send in the bomb the whole country and the other country and the tanks and the army and whatever we need to win that war, because it's a war of self-defense. We also talked about the fact that in the Constitution it only talks about in the common defense of the states, that's when we are supposed to use our armed forces.
But it also says to prevent invasion from foreign power too. And I guess
Right,
that's
invasion
where
invasion. I'm
this,
sorry.
this is where this gap is that
Well,
we're trying to find out about. How do you define where does that invasion have to be? Literally on the border or originating somewhere else, either fairly close or very, very far away?
well, for me, it's clear that it has to do with invasion of a foreign power to America. If something's happening or some other country is being invaded and we think that maybe that might have a consequence down the line, that's not invading us. I mean, you gotta have a clear demarcation of, you know, or else anything is can be used as a reason to go to war, because everything that happens around the world has some indirect consequences on us.
Especially now with modern technology and ability to travel around the world in hours now, whereas before, and when our country was founded, it took weeks for ships to sail across, and there was plenty of forewarning, and we were a smaller country, and we were protected by oceans. So as we have grown and the world has grown, those definitions, like, they don't fit in the small container that they used to fit in. So now we're dealing with governments and ideologies that are global in nature, not just contained in a precise geographical area, which is my background, the global Islamic movement. It is everywhere, almost everywhere in the world. And it takes this wide variety of tactical, a whole kaleidoscope of tactics to accomplish the same strategy. And
Well,
so,
do you think we should go to war with one of the Islamic countries, because even though they haven't attacked us and there's no imminent threat of an attack on our country by that country?
no, that's not what I'm saying at all. All I'm saying is that the complexity of the interactions between the countries and the worldviews and the concept of sovereignty are global in nature now, and we're not isolated like in anywhere near the degree that we were when our country was founded. All sides have the capacity to reach pretty far and conduct operations up to and including terrorist attacks and outbreaks of violence.
But they don't pose an existential threat to us, nor have they attacked us as a country, right? The Russians do have the capacity to annihilate us. We have the capacity to annihilate them, and we've lived with that detente and deterrence, mutual assured destruction, quite well. So, if you're fighting an ideology like the Muslim ideology, which obviously is mistaken, and there are grandiose dreams of a caliphate and all that, and they can, as far as I'm concerned, they can dream as much as they want, but they don't really pose a threat. In other words, they say ISIS doesn't have an army or a navy or an air force. I mean, they have an army, but they don't have Air Force and the Navy, so they can never attack us. They can persuade maybe some misguided, usually Americans, homegrown terrorists, like they call them, American Muslims that are misguided and commit terrorist acts here. And we want to prevent that. I think that's your job, and we want you to do that job, but that's not really a war.
I think, as we referenced earlier about in our effort to define warfare and why we should be in one, we were talking about the Vietnam War and this 50-year debate now, but we have to also go forward to 9/11 because